with NHL free agency slowly coming to a close and most of the larger trades having been done now, I think the Vegas Golden Knights have kind of gotten pretty close to their completed roster for the season once it started. And for that reason, I think it's time that we start taking a little bit of deep dive and analyzing this roster piece by piece. And one of my favorite things to do early on in the offseason, especially before the season starts getting going, is talking about players that I think are poised for a breakout year. Players that I think are going to take that next step, that big leap this year. So in this video, that's what I want to be talking about. We're going to go through my, I believe, 5 or 6 players that I expect to take a big leap. A couple honorable mentions here just because I wasn't quite sure exactly. And how we're going to do this, so we're going to start with a name. Obviously, we're going to go through their stats, we're going to go through why I think this year is the year, and we're going to go through what a breakout year for that player means specifically. But if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. It really makes a huge difference, especially for us smaller YouTubers such as myself. Just a subscriber here and there can really make a huge difference in making us reach our end goals and reaching our milestones along the way. But let's not waste any more of your time. Let's get right into this. First, let's start with my honorable mentions. We have 3, technically 2 because there's one questionable one, and the questionable one here is going to be Keegan Kolesar. The reason why he's questionable is just because we don't really know what's going on with his contract. Now, just a few days ago, Keegan Kolesar, he elected for a salary arbitration, and that's kind of a confusing thing because sometimes what that means is that they're locked in with the team, but it doesn't always mean that they're actually going to be on the team. Sometimes you get traded. A lot of weird things going in there, but I do really like what Keegan Kolesar can bring to the VGK roster if he does return. So for that reason, he's an honorable mention, but not a top honorable mention because there's just a lot of question marks surrounding him. Now, my next guy is a guy that I'm a big fan of, and I've been a big fan since he joined this roster, and that is Jonas Rondbjerg. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing a lot of names here. Just bear with me here. But Jonas Rondbjerg had 6 points last year in only 22 games. He did play with the Henderson Silver Knights for a good stretch that last year. I just really like the way he plays. He plays really highly competitive, and he's just always going after it, whether it's on offense or defense. Now, the reason why he's an honorable mention is primarily because of his position. He plays in a highly competitive position of left winger that already has Chandler Stevenson, Jonathan Marchessault, I believe Kolesar is there if he does return to the team, and William Carrier. You got 4 guys there that are pretty easily better than Jonas Rondbjerg, but I could see him, depending on injuries or other circumstances there, taking a step up and taking the next step, and that's why he's an honorable mention. Now, my last honorable mention is a guy that was just brought back to the Vegas Golden Knights, and that is Brett Howden. Last year, he had 20 points, which is honestly pretty good, especially for the age that he is at. The reason why I don't quite have him there is because of his a little bit of injury worries. We don't know if he's going to be able to play at the start of the season. He's also playing in a competitive position with Jack Eichel and William Karlsson, as well as Nolan Patrick, who I believe Brett Howden's better than Nolan Patrick, but nonetheless, all playing his same position. So because of the injuries and because of the position he plays, I think the honorable mention category is about right for him. Now, let's get right into my top guys. 5 guys that I believe are going to have a breakout year. Nothing is guaranteed here. As we all know in the sport, injuries can occur, all different circumstances can occur. But when we're going through these players, I am expecting that they're playing as much of a full season as normally possible for a normal player. So take that all with a grain of salt. Now, my first guy that I expect to have a breakout year is an extremely young guy. A guy that if you only watch Vegas games, you probably don't even know of. And that is Brendan Bryson. Now, Brendan Bryson's extremely young. He's 20 years old. And although Bryson has not played a single minute of NHL hockey, I believe he can make an immediate impact. Now, we did play 2 years with the Michigan Wolverines and about a short period of 8 or so games, 8 to 10 games with the Henderson Silver Knights to end the year last year. And with what we have saw, I think he has a lot of talent that he can bring to this roster right away. At just 20 years old, Brendan Bryson has already shown some great potential. With 2 years with the Michigan Wolverines, Bryson posted 62 games. He had 31 goals, 32 assists, and 63 points with a 27 plus minus. So when he's on the ice, the team is already outscoring the other team almost all of the time. He is scoring more points than he is games played, which is a really, really good thing to see. 1 point per game is top level play. And after joining the Henderson Silver Knights, he continued to do that. Although he only played 7 games in the regular season, he scored 3 goals and 5 assists, leading to 8 points in 7 games. Again, 1 point per game, as well as playing in the playoffs. And I do not know his playoff stats. That was a mistake of mine. I should have got that. Even though I don't expect Bryson to be an immediate player on the roster at the beginning of the regular season, I do see him joining sometime around the 20 to 30 game range during the regular season, and I believe he's going to average about half a point per game. No, I'm not expecting him to come out swinging 1 point per game like he has the past 3 years with the teams he's played with, just because the NHL is a different beast. But I think 0.5 point per game can be an immediate impact for this team, and I could see him even going over top of that depending on what line he plays on. Not only does his pure talent give him a clear chance in the league, but also his position that he plays for Vegas allows him a chance to get into this roster. Brennan plays center, which although is a really competitive position, he also can play both wingers. We've seen it done with Michigan and with Henderson. Not only at the center position does he already post a very good ability to start, or not start, but be an effective player on the team. But again, with some of the players that are there in Nolan Patrick and in Brett Howden, 2 guys that both are worried about injuries and returning at the beginning of the season, but guys that we haven't already seen reach full potential. And although Brett Howden, I believe, had 20 points last year, that's nothing crazy. I believe that Brendan Bryson could do something very similar if he was given the chance with the team. Now, next up, we have another guy that's already been giving a long extension with the Vegas Golden Knights and has played pretty well for them, and that is Zach Whitecloud. And although Zach has played in an extremely depth-heavy right defenseman position with Shea Theodore, Alex Pietrangelo, he still has shown his great defense and his capability of scoring. He had 8 goals last year with 11 assists for 19 points, which are very good numbers, especially for a guy on the defense side of the puck. And although Alex Pietrangelo maybe is an outlier, especially if you only watch Vegas hockey, with 44 points from the defenseman position, we do got to realize it's not extremely common for defensemen to go out and score a lot of goals or a lot of points in general. Not only that, but the defensive stats. He had 98 hits last year, which was 4th on the roster, and 115 block shots, which was 3rd. Those are both really, really good numbers for anyone on the roster, but in general in the league, those are both very good numbers when compared to other defensemen at the line that he sits at. Not only do I expect to see his points take a step up, but I also expect to see him improving on his defense side of things because of the coach that was brought in Bruce Cassidy, who has already shown an extremely good ability to make top defenses and get a lot of hits with his previous team with the Boston Bruins. Now, what is my prediction for a breakout year? Well, with 20 points and 100 hits almost, 115 block shots, I expect his block shots to stay decently similar. I expect his hits to go up to around that 115 range. I think he's going to get about 30 points for this team this year, and I think that is a pretty big step up. And I think he can become more of that second liner and potentially moving into that top line if Alex Pietrangelo does not stay healthy or if we start to see him regress due to his age. Next, we have another young guy that maybe we haven't seen enough of quite yet, and that is Nick Waugh. Now, last year he had 15 goals, 24 assists, and 39 points, which is already a very, very good number, which was 6th highest on the team for points. He had 85 hits, which was 5th on the roster, so he's able to do it both sides on offense and on defense, and he's shown his ability to score as well as finding the open man with those 15 goals and 24 assists. With an improved third line this year, with a lot of young guys that are improving, for example, Brett Howden and or Brendan Bryson, who I already talked about, William Carrier, Nicholas Hague, and Zach Whitecloud, all on that third line. I expect him to improve in his goal numbers and his assist numbers because of the development on his own line, as well as the ability for him to potentially take a step up into that second line, as I think he's plenty capable of it. Also, I expect his defense, for the same reason that I said that Zach Whitecloud's going to improve, I expect to improve because of Bruce Cassidy's addition to the team. Bruce Cassidy at the helm is only going to lead to better defense for the entire team, but also for these guys that have already shown their ability to play very good defense. So my prediction is I think Waz is going to break 50 points this next year. And although he already had 39 and was pretty close with just outside of 40, and 11 not being a huge jump, let's have a reminder real quick that only 3 players on the roster last year had over 50 points. Only 3 players, and one of them only had 52 points. Now, yes, Mark Stone and Jack Eichel missed some time, which held them from getting to that threshold, but still, I think the fact that Nick Waugh could jump to that 50 points could be a huge contributing factor to this roster, and he's already shown his ability to do so, being at that 6th spot for points in last year. Now, next up, these last 2 guys are some big integral pieces to this win, especially to the winning. So we're going to start slowing down. We have a lot more information here, and I'm sorry if it felt like I went a little too fast or maybe a little bit too slow on those last few guys here, but this is where we really get into things. My next guy is one of my favorite players on this roster right now, and I think a lot of people's one of their favorite players, and that is Logan Thompson at goalie. Thompson last year only played in 19 games, which was the least for any of the starting goalies for the Vegas Golden Knights team. And that primarily came because of a Robin Lehner injury as well as a Laurent Brossoit injury. But when Thompson was given the ability to play on the ice, he definitely did an amazing job in doing so, having the highest goals against average and save percentage for all the goalies on this roster. He had a 2.68 goals against average and a 91.4 save percentage. Not only was that the best for the team, but goals against average, he was 23rd in the entire league, and for save percentage, that was 20th in the entire league. Very, very good numbers, not only for a starting goalie, but he was a backup goalie. Logan Thompson also played in some key games late in the year, and although they didn't win them all, he was playing top-level goalie play in the regulation games and in those shootouts where Vegas couldn't seem to score. And although they lose 3 games in a row, they still had to have the other teams shoot 17 times in 3 games. Normally, you're only shooting about 3 before the game's ending in a shootout. So that's incredibly, incredibly good. And if Vegas could have just scored in those shootouts, his numbers would look even better, and he would have been able to push them into the playoffs on his own back when the rest of the goalies couldn't play. Now, his record is pretty good, but not incredibly impressive, especially because of those overtime losses in the shootout. He had a 10-5-3 record, including those back-to-back-to-back shootout losses. Expect Thompson, and this is my prediction. This is why I think he's going to have a breakout year. Expect Thompson to solidify himself as that backup role. I do not expect him to take that huge leap into that number 1 spot as long as Lehner is healthy because of Lehner's experience. And it's not like Lehner versus Thompson is a huge difference in stats. But I expect Thompson to take that spot as a number 2 and potentially a 1A, 1B position with Robin Lehner and play about 30 games, which is a pretty high number. Normally, a starting goalie is playing 40 to 50 games, so if you're getting 30 out of 82, that's a very, very good number. I also expect him to be top 20 in both of the major goalie stats. He was already 23rd and 20th, but I expect him to continue that into an additional 13 games this year. And I could even see him potentially breaking that 40 threshold, depending on Robin Lehner's injury concerns, or if Lehner is traded, which I've heard a lot of rumbling around potentially happening, although I expect it to happen at the trade deadline if it does occur. So expect Thompson to continue to be the best goalie statistic-wise on the roster and to play at least 30, potentially 40 games for this roster. Now, this last man on the roster may be a little bit of a surprise. Is extremely controversial, especially for Vegas fans. Now, if you haven't guessed already, that controversial guy is Jack Eichel. And I know a lot of people hate the trade that occurred for Jack Eichel. And on some point, I do understand it. But Jack Eichel has already shown his ability to be a top-level player, and although Breakout is a questionable decision here, especially with how well he's already played previously with the Buffalo Sabres, I think he can have a breakout year again for Vegas. Now, last year, Eichel had 25 points in 34 games. Not quite a point per game, but that's nothing that was really expected. Although those numbers don't jump out the screen at you as much as we all hoped, we need to realize that he did return from injury, which means he has to get back to playing at game level speed, and practice will never get you ready for game level speed. There's nothing like it. No one's going to hit you as hard in practice as you will in game. Those shots against the goalie are going to be way harder in game than they are in real life, and running nonstop, you're going to be doing it way more with way more effort in game. So it is important to remember that he just barely reached his full health and movement towards the end of that year. Now, the last time that Eichel played a full healthy season was in 2019 and 2020, and in that year, he had 36 goals, 42 assists, and 78 points in 68 games. 78 points, if you played every single game, 82 games, 78 points is still really impressive because you're right below 1 point per game. And he got 78 points in 68 games. That means that he played 14 less games than a full season. And although that might be a little bit sad to see and a little bit worrisome because you want to see him play in every single game, you also got to look at what that means per number. This puts him at a 1.15 points per game. If you put that over an 82-game season, he had 95 points. If he kept up at that 1.15 rate, he would have had 95 points on the year, which is incredible. Not only has Jack Eichel shown his ability to score and make opportunities for his teammates, but with Vegas, he's going to have a much improved roster compared to what he did with Buffalo. Although he had an incredible numbers with 78 points in 68 games with the Buffalo Sabres, you also got to look at what that roster was. He was straight up carrying those guys. And now with the Vegas Golden Knights playing in that top line, even that second line, you have Mark Stone. You have Chandler Stevenson. You have Alex Pietrangelo on the defensive end. You also have Shea Theodore, who will rotate minutes sometimes. You have a lot of great teammates, which is not only going to allow for you to get more assists because you're passing two guys that are more capable than you had in Buffalo, but you're also going to be able to get more points, more goals, because these guys are better at passing as well, so they're going to find you with an opening or pull a double team towards them to leave you open. So what's my prediction here? I think Jack Eichel will have a breakout year. Although he had 78 points, and I believe he had 82 a year before that, I think he's going to break 100. Yes, I think Jack Eichel is going to break 100 points if healthy. Key word here. Obviously, you got to be healthy. But if he plays 70 to 80 games, I think he can break 100 points. Like I said, he was on a 95-point season rate in 2019 and 2020 on a worse team than he is on now. Now, last year, 8 players broke 100 points. So before last year, it was extremely uncommon to see that. You were a top player if you got 1 point per game. And if you broke 100 while you were the top of the league, 8 players did that last year. So why can't Jack Eichel do it on a team that hasn't much improved compared to his Buffalo Sabres team? So those are my 5 players and honorable mentions for who I think will have a breakout year for Vegas. What do you think? Is there someone else you think that's going to have a breakout year? Do you think my picks were terrible? Tell me what you think. Let's have a conversation. I love having a conversation with you guys. If you enjoy this video, please like. If you enjoy this channel, subscribe. Seriously, it makes a huge difference to us smaller subs, and I'm still trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. And based on what you guys did the other day, I think I can reach that with your guys' help. So please, if you enjoy this video, subscribe. It means a whole world to me. But as always, I hope it taught something today. Hope it made you smile. Hope it made you laugh. That's something that's really important to me. Affect someone else's day in a great way, because every single day can be a great day if we all put in the effort. And as always, you guys all be safe out there.